Okay, it is 10 a.m., the appointed hour. This is the Town of Barnstable Licensing Authority meeting scheduled for Wednesday, July 9th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Barnstable Town Hall in the James H. Crocker Jr. Hearing Room. We're on the second floor, and the meeting will be televised via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access Channel live stream on the Town of Barnstable's website. Our first order of business is to call this meeting to order, which I am doing, and I would like to introduce the members who are up here on the dais. My name is John Flores. I am the newly elected chairperson of the licensing board, and to my immediate right is the newly elected vice chairperson of the licensing authority, even though our plackets say something different. That just happened at the last meeting. Then to my immediate second left, your left, is Nancy Carlson-Lidman, associate member of the board, followed by Jessica Silva and John Murphy, all members of the licensing authority. To my left is Chris Kelsey. He is our liaison from the police department and works closely with the licensing board relative to any activity that needs to be debated, discussed, or reported. And finally, Erin Logan. She is the director of licensing for the town. And I also see in the audience Allison. Allison is our deputy attorney for the town. Allison, thank you for coming. Okay, with all of that being said, I will also, the notice of recording this meeting of the Barnstable Licensing Authority is being recorded and broadcast in the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Massachusetts General Law. Chapters 30A, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, please make their presence known. Is anyone in the audience recording this? Not seeing that, that's okay. We'll move on to what is the start of our show cause hearing, which is the reason we are here today having this special meeting. I'm going to begin by just making sure, making an announcement. I don't have to recuse myself from anything, but I want to make folks aware that I also serve on the Barnstable Airport Commission. And the Airport Commission leases property to WS Development, who in turn leases property to Tiki Port. So I want to just make that up front that there is no conflict of interest, and I've reported that to the ethics as well as to the
Mr. Flores, in that regard, David Lawler, on behalf of the Pacific Bay Inc., DBA Tiki Port Restaurant, even to the extent that we would waive any conflict, even if one existed. I don't think it does, but if it did, we would waive it. We obviously have no issues with you presiding.
Thank you. Okay. We have not had, or I have not chaired a show cause hearing in a long time. We haven't had one here in the town for a very long time. So we're going to begin by reading into the record the agenda item. Let me look at the agenda item. Well, the agenda item is, I'm not seeing it specifically written down.
Chair, if you'd like.
I see it. Okay. The show cause hearing will be held to determine if Pacific Bay Inc., doing business as Tiki Port Restaurant located at 720 Iono Road, Hyannis, is innocent or guilty of the following violations. And I will read them. 501-5, responsibilities of a license holder. 501-7, admissions to the premises. 501-8, A, B, and C, and D.1, hours of operation. 501-10B, Section J, Section 5, Section K, and Section L and M, standards of conduct and activity occurring at the licensed premises. 501-11, environs of a licensed premise. 502-1H, Section I, alcoholic beverages, general provisions. 502-5B and C, additional provisions for on-premises licenses. And 503-2A, entertainment, general provisions, and based on the findings of this morning's hearing on all of these items, there's a lot to go through. The licensing authority will determine if the annual all alcohol license will be modified, suspended, or revoked. So with that being said, that is the official motion agenda item that's been read into the record. I'm going to ask representatives of Tiki Port doing, I guess it's, hold on one second, Pacific Bay, Inc., doing business as the Port Restaurant, Tiki Port Restaurant, to come forward. Make sure the microphone's on. I'm going to ask you to identify yourself and speak to the violations being considered for this hearing. So, Mr. Lawler, you're the attorney of record, I assume, so.
Yeah, yes, I'm the attorney of record, and here on behalf of Pacific Bay, Inc., Tiki Port, DBA Tiki Port Restaurant, and here to represent the license holder. My understanding is it, and I don't want to speak up, generally, I think the town would go first. Is that how?
No, in this case, we're asking you to go first.
Okay.
We're asking you to speak to the charges that were brought against.
Well, I mean, in looking at what's here before, generally one responds. It's a little, but I will go along with that. Right now, we're here. We're not going to actively. Let me rephrase this. I've read the reports, received the reports last week about these allegations. I've had continuous communication with Officer Kelsey for the past 10 days or so. He and I think, have worked together well. With respect to these allegations, as an attorney, I had just to put on the record, everything here is not just hearsay, but double hearsay. We have individuals who are not here present who have presented reports to police officers, and I don't even believe the police officers that received the reports are here, but Officer Kelsey is here. Now, that being said, I have to put that on the record. We're here to work with the licensing board. We believe that there certainly was a significant problem that evening, and that violations may have occurred where there were possibly individuals at the premises late night, later than should be. My client's trying to keep this business together with a light staff, and I'm not going to provide any excuses with respect to that. However, this is a business that's been in operation since 1997. So that was when I was 12. So I'm 60 now, so you do the math. 77, I'm sorry, 67, I'm sorry, 77, because I was 2 at 67. And then and in the past, there have been no violations except for the past 7 years or 8 years or so. There's been a couple, I believe 1 5 years ago, and then 1 7 or 8 years ago that were some violations. The business, I've had serious conversations with my client, Fawn, about trying to implement programs to maintain the safety for the patrons, the police. There's been some issues with late night people coming into the parking lot, even if they don't come into the restaurant, would come into the parking lot. I know that the town, had that problem in the past and implemented the curfew for businesses because of that. And what, on behalf of my client, we would be proposing would be some type of a restriction of hours, and we would ask that for a period of 6 months, that the license closure time period would go from the present 1 o'clock to midnight. And the rationale behind this, and I've had conversations with Officer Kelsey about this, and I believe he was, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but in the conversations, if this were to be the board solution, he was looking for a little bit earlier. But the issue here is that it seems to be a problem where people think that they can come to this restaurant for, after hours. So if we're closed an hour before everybody else, there would be no, issues of people coming in here for last call and trying to remove people. Sometimes there is an intimidation factor with some of these folks that come in late and they don't want to go. And, you know, I know there's a solution to that. You call the police, but that obviously didn't occur here. So one of the, we would be proposing, and obviously avoiding any, you know, further proceedings, would be that for 6 months, you know, up and through January, whatever the date may be, the end of the year, that the establishment's hours be readjusted by this board so we close at midnight. Therefore, that eliminates, in my opinion, the problem where, you know, say, I don't want to name other restaurants, but there's a lot of local places that close, you know, at 1 o'clock, and people wouldn't be rushing here to try to, you know, get some late night food right at closing, and it would solve that problem. And we would have, you know, obviously, have been meeting with my client and discussing protocols if we're, you know, if some of these solutions are acceptable, where the, you know, establishment is shut down right at midnight. Therefore, people are far less likely to go there for last call. And we would think that excuse me, the microphone, a 6-month probationary period in that regard would be something that would also be acceptable. We're trying to keep this business together. As you know, it's, you know, there's a lot of things in play, you know, with the Airport Commission and all, and other matters in the lease and things of that nature. And we're trying to keep this establishment going, you know, again, since 1977. We also understand that in addition to that,
There is no issue going on with the Airport Commission. The Airport Commission has leased that property to WS Development, so any
Oh, okay.
interaction between Tiki Port and their parent corporation has nothing to do with the airport at this point. It's strictly with WS Development.
okay, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Flores. It's a, they're on a much shorter lease than would generally be, you know, one would generally find. I don't want to get into the specifics of it publicly, but, so with all that in mind, we also understand that based upon the nature of these infractions, the fact that in the parking lot, which was beyond the control of my client at that time, that there was an injury, that the board would also be looking for a period of a license suspension for serving of alcohol. We would propose, in order to keep this business alive, keep the employees there, that they serve a week sometime this summer and then maybe a week in November where they wouldn't be allowed. They'd be able to sell food, probably on a takeout basis or whatever, but not the service of alcohol. And that's what we would propose. Again, I don't want to put words in Officer Kelsey's mouth, but and I'll let him address that. But what I will say is that he has been nothing but responsive. We were on the phone yesterday probably for a grand total of about an hour and a half, going back and forth on probably 5 or 6 different phone calls.
Okay.
And we're trying to work closely with the Barnstable Police Department and this board in obtaining an appropriate response to the allegations.
Mr. Chairman, can I just interrupt for a brief second and get a point of clarification from Attorney Lawler, please?
Sure.
Sir, thank you for appearing before the board. In your early part of your opening statement, you talked about hearsay and double hearsay and witnesses not being here to be available to the board. Is it my understanding that you wanted them here and they're not here, or did you engage in some type of conversation with Officer Kelsey allowing him not to have those witnesses present?
Fair enough question. First of all, as a lawyer, I just couldn't help myself.
I know you had to sneak that in there, but I had to call you on it as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, and just for purposes, no, I mean, Chris has been, I'm sorry, Officer Kelsey has been nothing but forthcoming. We're on a very tight timeline. I received these reports just about 8 or 9 days ago. One of them, a couple of them, I received on Tuesday. I'm not gonna lie to you. If I received them yesterday or I received them 10 days ago, it wouldn't have made a difference in my preparation. So I'm not going to suggest to you that timing of certain things in any way interfered with this. Now, if we were to have a full-blown hearing, would I want witnesses to cross-examine and do this and do that?
Excuse me, this is a full-blown
I
hearing.
understand. I'm sorry, but fair enough. I mean, if we were to have a full-blown trial as opposed to what I'm
It's
trying
not
to...
a trial, it's a hearing.
No, it's the same thing. It's a quasi-criminal. It's a hearing. But respectfully, on the hearing, but, you know, for purposes of if we reach some type of, equitable resolution, I would suggest to you that I would not be seeking to appeal anything or...
And I appreciate that response, and I respect it. My only point is that Officer Kelsey has prepared a summary for the board about the facts leading up to this show cause hearing we're having today, as well as a list of potential witnesses. You received, I would assume, a copy of what the facts were and what they're going to be presented. And I'd like to be heard on some of those, and I'd like to listen to Officer Kelsey detail that.
Thank you. Are you?
Yeah, no, I received those on July 2nd.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Attorney Lawler, are you?
I'm done.
You're done? Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, as we move this forward, what I'm going to ask, now that we have heard from Attorney Lawler, that we hear from our staff, that we hear from Officer Kelsey, who was the officer liaison with the licensing authority. And then, once that is completed through the chair, I'm going to ask anyone up here who is a member of the licensing authority to ask any questions, any issues of concern. But initially, we'll go with Chris. If Director Logan wants to add to anything that Officer Kelsey is saying, please do. And then we'll go to everyone up here, and through the chair, I'll recognize you for any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
So with that being said, Officer Kelsey.
Thank you, Chairman. To speak, before I start, there's a couple of things that I want to address. As far as the witnesses go, we do have the lead detective on this case here present today. So Detective Blaisdell is here, and he is the one who was basically in charge of all of the follow-ups to this incident. So if we have any questions for Detective Blaisdell, he is present and he is willing to speak to those. As far as the civilians, we do have written statements, emails that have been sent to me by the people who gave the statements. And that would be Miss Cleo Howard, Mr. Julian Ward, and a Miss Kelsey Lima. As far as Cleo Howard, her interview was video recorded at the Barnstable Police Department, and Julian Ward's interview was video recorded at the Barnstable Police Department. That was made aware in my summary. Kelsey Lima, she was not able to come to the Barnstable Police Department for an interview due to her health condition from the accident that occurred in the parking lot at the Tiki port. I did speak with her by telephone, and she did submit an email written statement to me. I do want to make a clarification in my summary report. In line 1, I actually stated that I received information from an anonymous source, and that is, I misspoke when I wrote that. It should have said that I received information from a source that wanted to remain anonymous. And then also in the report, I did say that there was body camera footage from my interview and Detective Loisel's interview with Fawn, and his proper name is Chung Ma, who is the manager at the Tiki port. I did state that the body camera footage is of Detective Loisel's body camera, and I was incorrect in that. It is actually my body camera that the recording came from. So I wanted to put that out there so that everyone knew that up front. Chairman, if you would like, I can read into the record my summary
I would
report.
like that. Yes, please do. That way there it'll be clear and accurate.
So in January of 2025, I was offered information, and as I stated, I wrote from an anonymous source, and it should say a source who wished to remain anonymous, who stated that they had gone to Tiki Port sometime in the middle of the month after hours because they had been hearing that Tiki Port served food and alcohol after closing. This person said that they were with a friend who had gone to the Tiki Port after hours previously and had been served. This person stated that they went to the back door in the rear parking lot, which was unlit. They stated that they observed a male bouncer at the back door wearing a bulletproof vest and who was vetting people as they entered. This person stated that they did not go all the way in, as they had second thoughts about participating in this after-hours party, but they did observe in the bar area, did observe people in the bar area with drinks and food. This person stated that it was definitely after 1 a.m. when they were being let into the bar through the back door. In January, I, Detective Kelsey, sent an email to the midnight shift patrol supervisor asking for extra patrols of the Tiki Port area after 1 a.m. On 3 occasions, the midnight shift noticed vehicles in the rear parking lot after hours. On 1 occasion, they encountered 2 individuals who had intended on entering the restaurant after hours, and they advised them to leave. During the month of February, there were no police log entries of vehicles being present after hours. I do have those log entries here with me if we need to look at the dates and the times. During this investigation, it was determined that there were a number of patrons in the Tiki Port restaurant after closing. At some point after 1:30 a.m. on March 23, 2025, a fight broke out inside the Tiki Port restaurant. This fight was pushed out into the parking lot. Crowds flowed into the rear and into the front parking lot where this accident occurred. The accident resulting in a pickup truck striking 2 female patrons. Both patrons were transported to the hospital. One patron was transported to Cape Cod Hospital, and the other was transported by MedFlight to a Rhode Island trauma center for her injuries. Sergeant Jeff Jackson was on patrol on the road this evening. Sergeant Jackson responded to the accident, and as part of the investigation, he spoke with Fawn Chung Ma, who is the manager of Tiki Port. Sergeant Jackson was inquiring about the possible video for the parking lot and was told that the video system for the restaurant was not working at this time. Sergeant Jackson asked Fawn if he knew what happened, and he was told that he, Fawn, had no idea, and he was in the restaurant cleaning with the TV up loud. He said he was not aware of anything going on outside. This interaction was recorded by Sergeant Jackson's body camera. On March 24th, 2025, Miss Cleo Howard came to the Barnstable Police Department and spoke with Detective Sergeant Butler and Detective Loisel. This interview took place in the Detective Interview Room number 1 and was recorded. Ms. Howard also has submitted an email with her statements. During this interview, Ms. Howard stated that on this night, she and friends had stayed at the quarterdeck lounge until closing. She stated that they did not want to end the night, and it was common knowledge that the Tiki Port illegally stayed open after hours. She stated that she and her friends agreed to go there, arriving sometime between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning. Ms. Howard stated that she knew to go to the back door after hours and that this was the second time that she had gone to Tiki Port after 1 a.m. Ms. Howard stated that the first time she went to the Tiki Port after hours, she, her friends, and many others were served alcohol and food well past the legal closing time. Ms. Howard said that she and her friends entered into the bar on March 23, where she observed people drinking. Ms. Howard stated that she did not have a drink on this occasion as she was assaulted prior to ordering. She stated that the assault took place inside the bar and continued outside and into the parking lot. At this time, I'd like to read into the record the written statement from Ms. Howard. To whom it may concern, my name is Cleo Howard. I'm a 29-year-old female resident of Barnstable, Massachusetts. I've lived on Cape Cod my entire life, and I reside in the town of Barnstable. I have resided in the town of Barnstable for nearly 10 years. I'm submitting this report in connection with an incident that occurred at the restaurant known as Tiki Port, located in Hyannis, Massachusetts. I have known about Tiki Port since before I was of legal age. It is relevant to note that I was served alcohol at this establishment prior to turning 21 years old. Earlier this year, I became aware that Tiki Port had been hosting after-hour events, which I have never attended before. Toward the end of February 2025, I visited Tiki Port after 1 a.m. Although I do not recall the exact date, I can confirm that I and many other patrons were being served alcohol and consuming food well past the legal closing time. The second and more significant occurrence took place on March 23, 2025. On this date, I was at the quarterdeck lounge with friends and family until closing. Afterward, we spent about approximately 25 to 30 minutes in the quarterdeck parking lot, which places our arrival at Tiki Port after 1 a.m. I was accompanied by my younger cousin, his friend, and my brother. When we entered Tiki Port, the establishment was visibly busy with many individuals eating and drinking inside the premises, including at the bar. My cousin and his friend stood at the bar awaiting alcoholic beverages. While I was in the side restaurant area, I was physically assaulted by multiple individuals who had been drinking and dining in the establishment after hours. This occurred inside the Tiki Port location, and I believe the environment, including continued alcohol service past legal hours, played a direct role in the event that led to the assault. I am providing this statement to assist in any civil or criminal investigation involving unlawful activity at Tiki Port, including but not limited to the unauthorized service of alcohol after legal hours, underage drinking, and the violent assault I personally experienced while on premise. I'm willing to provide further testimony or evidence as needed. On March 24th, 2025, Mr. Julian Ward came to the Barnstable Police Department and spoke to Detective Loisel and Detective Phelan. This interview took place in Detective's interview room number 1 and was recorded. Mr. Ward has also submitted an email. Mr. Ward stated that he and his friends were at the quarterdeck until closing. He stated that around 1:30, his friends decided to go to Tiki Port. Mr. Ward stated that they went to the back door and were let into the restaurant. Mr. Ward stated that he and a friend went to the bar, and he remembers seeing a female standing on the bar talking shit, his exact words, to Cleo. Mr. Ward stated that the female on the table lunged at Cleo, and then a large group started fighting with Cleo in the middle of them. Mr. Ward stated that there were people exiting from the front and the back of Tiki Port. Mr. Ward stated that there were between 40 and 50 people in the restaurant at this time. On March 20, and I also do have a written statement from Mr. Ward. Mr. Ward's written statement was, I was at the Tiki Port the night of the incident. I was sitting at the bar. I did not get a drink. There were probably 50 people at or seated around the bar area. They were serving drinks and food to people. Some of those people seemed to be pretty drunk as well. When I got there around 1:30, we came...
Excuse me for interrupting. Sir, are you recording this with your phone? No. Okay.
I'm just shutting it off.
Okay, thank you. Just want to be sure. Excuse me.
No problem. I'll start over. I was at the Tiki Port the night of the incident. I was sitting at the bar. I did not get a drink. There were probably 50 people at or seated near and around the bar area. They were serving drinks and food to some people, and other people seemed to be pretty drunk as well. When I got there around 1:30, we came through the back entrance, and a fight broke out around 2 o'clock. That's when I tried to get my cousin Cleo to leave, and that's the end of his statement. On the afternoon of March 28, 2025, at approximately 8 minutes past 2, Detective Loisel and I visited the Tiki Port and spoke with Fawn in regard to this incident, which occurred on March 23, 2025. During our conversation, Fawn stated that he had no knowledge of what happened in the parking lot as he was cleaning, and he had the TV turned up loud. Fawn stated that he closed the restaurant at the normal time, and everyone was out of the restaurant by 1 a.m. This conversation was recorded by body camera, and as I stated, I cited the body camera to Detective Loisel, and that should have been cited to me, Detective Kelsey. During that conversation, Fawn also stated that he had made last call at 11:45, and he repeated several times that everyone was out of the restaurant by 1 a.m. We do have that body camera footage if needed.
That was provided to me.
Okay. On June 17th, 2025, I spoke with Kelsey Lima by telephone. Ms. Lima was one of the accident victims and was not up to having an in-person interview as she was still recovering from surgery resulting from being run over in the parking lot at the Tiki Port restaurant on March 23rd, 2025. Ms. Lima stated, or Ms. Lima said, that she was at the Tiki Port on March 23rd and had arrived around 12:30 a.m. She said that her group had hoped to catch last call and maybe order something to eat. Ms. Lima said that they were served, but was surprised that they were not asked to leave after 1 a.m. Ms. Lima said that she observed at least 4 groups come in after 1 a.m. Ms. Lima said that each of these groups entered through the side door and were served alcohol and food. Ms. Lima said that one of the people who was let in after 1 a.m. was the person who initiated the fight inside the restaurant. Ms. Lima has submitted an email statement with a picture of what she describes as a timestamped photograph of her and others being served a round of alcohol shots at 1:11 a.m. on March 23rd, 2025. And that picture is here and was submitted with the summary as well, as well as her written statement. And I will read that. This is an email statement that was submitted to me by Kelsey Lima. On March 23rd, 2025, around 12:30 a.m., I arrived at Tiki Port in Hyannis expecting to make last call for drinks. Not only did they allow us to get drinks, they allowed us to order food and dine in. When it became 1 o'clock, they did not ask anyone to leave. I remember at least 4 groups entering the restaurant after 1 a.m. from the side door who were also served alcohol and food. One of the people who were allowed after 1 a.m. came in and initiated an altercation that turned into a physical fight. This is when people left the restaurant. Attached is a picture with a timestamp from inside the Tiki Port with myself and others being served alcohol, a round of shots, at 1:11 a.m. on the morning of 3/23/25. The female who started the altercation had not yet arrived. On June 17th, 2025, I had a phone conversation with Mr. Greg Johnson, who was one of the 911 callers on the morning of March 23rd, 2025. Mr. Johnson stated that he was working at a local restaurant, and at the end of the evening, a bunch of people told him that Tiki Port was doing after hours. Mr. Johnson said for a few weeks he had been hearing that Tiki Port had been running after hours parties, but had not yet gone. Mr. Johnson said that he decided to check it out on this occasion. Mr. Johnson said that he was told to go to the back door and he would be let in. Mr. Johnson said that he did not leave his place of employment until 1:30 or 1:40 in the morning. Mr. Johnson said that as he pulled up, he observed a number of people emptying out of the back door of the Tiki Port restaurant, and there were young girls jumping each other. Mr. Johnson said that he soon observed the truck strike the 2 girls in the front parking lot, and he called 911. As a result of these statements obtained from a number of witnesses and officers, it seems that there are a number of town ordinances which should be reviewed and could be acted upon by the Town of Barnstable Licensing Authority. Please contact me with any questions or concerns. Respectfully, Detective Christopher Kelsey.
Thank you. Thank you, Officer Kelsey. I see Detective Lizell in the back. If there's anything else you might want to add to that, feel free to. You're good? Okay, thank you. Director Logan, anything else you would like to add to this, please?
Not pertaining to the report, but something that we should consider and seek clarification on, the licensing rules and regulations, section 501.15F states that unless otherwise, providing a penalty is imposed, a suspension, unless otherwise ordered by the licensing authority, no member of the public may be on the licensed premise at any time during the suspension period, and the business may not be open for any reason. I do understand that they have an all-alcohol common victular license, so we do have a precarious situation where there are two licenses on this premise, but I interpret this as an all or nothing. I don't believe if there is a suspension, they can be open at all. I wanted that to be part before you start deliberating.
Okay.
And that information is on your show cause procedures.
Okay, with that being said, good.
Just one more point, and this is information that did come to our attention. And as Attorney Lawler had mentioned, there have been, from our understanding, at least 2 other violations with the state ABCC in the past with Tiki Port, and I believe that they paid fines for those violations. And there's at least 1 other violation with the town of Barnstable, and I believe that there was a suspension related to that violation.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next on this show cause hearing, we will move to questions.
Mr. Chairman, do you know how long ago the infraction was with the town of Barnstable?
It predated my time here, so it's been at least 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
And the 2 infractions with the ABCC have been in the beginning of my time here. Those were both for underage service.
Okay, with that being said, I'm going to open up questions through the chair from members sitting up here on the dais. The only thing that I would say initially is that based on hearing from Mr. Lawler and the statements offered by Officer Kelsey, it's troubling to know that people were coming in back doors and side doors, and for whatever reason, someone had a bulletproof vest on, letting people in the back, that this was really ongoing for 80 days plus, if you go back to January with the accident stating in March. I find it hard to believe that the manager, although it's indicated that he had closed the restaurant, was watching TV loudly and cleaning, that he did not know that this was ongoing, because that's an 80-day spread. Coupled with, if people are in there after hours, they have to pay somehow, whether it's cash, whether it's credit card, who was taking care of those kinds of issues. So there's lots of questions that I have, but I just want to put that out there before I share the questioning opportunity with members of the licensing authority. So I would begin by looking to my immediate right, Vice Chair Larry Decker, if you have anything in particular.
This doesn't pertain directly to the violation, but my concern is there any action pending on the accident?
To my knowledge, no, but also my belief is there will be. There was a comment actually that Officer Kelsey talked about, criminal and civil, that there's probably some type of civil action coming from this. I don't have that specifically, but I would be very surprised if there's not.
So, Mr. Decker, those outside type things, they were specifically not brought in front of this authority because it doesn't pertain to the issue at hand today on these matters.
The only reason I questioned that was because I think in the minutes that you recorded that you said the fight started inside and then the fight went outside, and then there was, as a result of the fight, there was the accident. So all of this is somehow related, and that was the reason for my question.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Decker. Before we move on with questions from members of the authority, based on the report that Officer Lizell gave, coupled with what Officer Kelsey has given, Attorney Lawler, I want to give you the opportunity to respond to that, if you have anything to say specifically, before we begin down.
I'm not going to question Officer Kelsey at the moment, though I do renew what I had said previously. I'm
I just
not
want to give you the
going to
opportunity
waive
to
any
make
of
sure.
those issues.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, Mr. Decker, anything else that you would like to ask or request?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Carlson?
I wonder, is it appropriate to ask about the nature of the injuries, the person who was med-flighted?
I would
Okay.
say no, because those issues aren't something that this authority are going to be judging.
We are strictly looking at the violations based on the town code of Barnstable, nothing outside of that.
Okay. So, as stated, the manager was inside cleaning, and is it the responsibility of the manager to also be managing the activities in the parking lot on the premises of the,
The establishment is responsible for the activities both inside and
And
outside
outside.
on the immediate area, yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Silva, any questions?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm begging your patience. I have a litany of questions I'd like to go through.
No, I'd like you to do that. I know you've had lots of experience. At one point, you were the officer of record on behalf of the town, on behalf of the licensing board, so your insight into incidents such as what occurred on this evening in March will be well received by all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Officer Kelsey, in your statement of facts, you, the anonymous, wish to remain anonymous source referenced a male bouncer at the back door wearing a bulletproof vest, vetting people as they enter. Was the investigation able to determine if that person was an employee of Tiki Port or that person was a patron acting at the behest of other patrons?
We were not able to determine if that person was an employee or if it was a patron, basically allowing their friends in. No.
Attorney Lawler, if I may, to your knowledge or with your client's assistance, does any employee of the Tiki Port wear a bulletproof vest while they're engaging in their duties?
I'll have to consult with my client briefly on that, but I don't believe so. And again, I don't think there's any verification from the police officers that this anonymous individual to verify whether it was a vest or whatever. So
I certainly understand that. I'm just asking a question. Does a Tiki Port employee wear a bulletproof vest while they're working?
My understanding,
Yep. Take the statement from the anonymous source out of it.
my understanding is no.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lawler, please. The video system of the restaurant was not working on the evening in question, is what I heard. Is that accurate?
To the extent that there's a video system at all, yeah. But there's no requirement to have a video system. But there was no,
I understand, sir.
there is no video footage
I
that was
understand.
provided.
Is there a video system, and is it not working?
According to, I did not talk to my client about that, but according to the reports that were presented by Officer Kelsey, someone asked him if there was any tapes, and he indicated that the system was not functioning. It is an old restaurant.
I may be out of order, Mr. Chairman, but isn't his client sitting right behind him? Can't you ask him if he has a video system?
I prefer to handle this
Okay.
in the fashion it's being
That's
handled.
fine.
Yep.
That's fine, thank you. Attorney Lawler, has there been any instances where that back door has been used to exit or enter the restaurant?
I have no knowledge of that, one way or the other.
Where does that back door lead, if you know?
I don't know.
Could we ask the manager to respond to that? It's pertinent information that we need.
I respectfully, I'd have my client not testify at this hearing.
Okay.
Certainly respect your rights of your client not to testify in front of the board. I am a little bit confused where a back door would lead into the restaurant, whether it's the kitchen or a bathroom or a storage room, would impact this hearing.
And there was a mention of a
I
side door.
may at some point ask to
There
take
was
a break.
mention of a side door, too.
A side door, I believe. I may
Oh,
at
no,
some,
there was two.
I may at
There was a
some,
back door and a side door mentioned in the testimony from Officer Kelsey.
I may request a short recess to consult with my client after Mr. Murphy's questions, and then I might be able to respond to some of them afterwards.
That's
For-
fine.
For clarification purposes, they were statements from different witnesses. I believe that side door statement and the back door statement are referring to the same door.
Same door.
Yes.
So is it a side door or a back door?
Well, it depends on which way you're looking at the building. I think that's where but it is basically the door that comes into, I would call it the side of the building, me personally.
I'm assuming a side door you could see from Route 132, a back door you couldn't. I mean, that's my visual interpretation.
With the layout of the building, you actually wouldn't be able to see this side door or a back door.
Okay.
But, I mean, let's not get
Okay. I don't wanna
hemmed
get
up
caught
on
up
that.
in that. Okay.
It's a door that's not the front door that usually is used.
The purpose of my question, Mr. Chairman, of that is there is language in the rules and regulations that entrances and areas of the restaurants or establishments are prohibited from the public to be in, like the kitchen and other areas. That was the genesis of that question. Officer Kelsey, if I may. In your interview with Mr. Fawn, again, I just want to make sure for the record that he did not hear or report any disturbance inside the restaurant prior to the vehicle striking the patrons, that he was cleaning up and the TV was loud, so he did not hear anything?
Yes, that is his statement to us.
In his statement, did he report any disturbance inside the restaurant prior to his, as stated, time of closing at 12:45?
He did not report any disturbance inside the restaurant.
Did you ask him any questions relating to the January information you received or the information from the midnight patrol shift residing, the three instances where vehicles were seen and people were asked to leave?
No, at this time, our only conversation was about the incident on March 23rd.
May I ask a point of clarification on that, Mr. Murphy?
Sure.
Through the chair, please.
Through the chair, thank you. Mr. Flores, on a point of clarification, the charges here today are only relate to the March incident and not in January, is that correct?
My investigation came up with information that I'm providing to the licensing authority. How they take that information and how they act on it is going to be up to them.
It's really, it was a cumulative report that started in January, ending with the incident on March. It became known to the licensing authority as a result of the March incident, but it's obvious that everything leading up to March is really pertinent in terms of the conversation and the discussion that we're having this morning.
I just was actually the specific allegations and the charges I thought related only to the March incident, and I understand that. I just wanted to put that points of clarification. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy, any other questions or?
Yes, just
issues of
quickly.
concern?
Officer Kelsey, in Mr. Johnson's statement, Tiki Port had been running after-hours parties. Was there any information gleaned during the course of the investigation to further clarify what an after-hours party meant to be? Were they the sponsors of the party? Were people engaged in using that premises for a party or a function, and they were piggybacking, pardon the lack of legal definition, piggybacking off the Tiki Port liquor license to have a party on their premises?
Thank you for that question. His statement was about Tiki Port staying open later. They were the ones who were serving alcohol. They were the ones who were serving food. It was not in connection with a function or a group that was there during their open hours to do a private party and then continued on. He even compared it to a restaurant which is no longer in business that was running after-hour parties or continuing to serve down in their basement for a number of years, which was new information to me, but They're no longer in business, so that's not an issue. So it was specifically about Tiki Port running after hours, and they were the ones benefiting from the patrons being there.
Thank you. And just to clarify again, Mr. Ward's statement, a female standing on a table, is that a typo? Could she have been standing next to a table, or is the statement was actually standing on a table?
It was not a typo. It was a female standing on top of a table.
And again, the manager of record or the person that Officer Sergeant Jackson spoke to the night of the incident and who you spoke to in subsequent days later said that there was no disturbance in the hotel, in the restaurant prior to that.
That is correct.
I'm going to yield at this time, Mr. Chairman, back to you. I may have some follow-up questions based on what transpires moving forward.
Okay, I will just go back to my initial comments. You know, I'm troubled by the fact that to enter any restaurants, whether it's during regular hours or after hours, why someone would have to pass by someone wearing a bulletproof vest. It speaks to something's not right there. Coupled with the fact that this wasn't an isolated incident based on testimony that's already been given. I mean, this is an 80-day plus kind of activity that was ongoing. We have no record of it, what specific nights, but we do know that it was happening. The fact that the manager of record, and it's the responsibility, since my 5 years on this board, we've interviewed many managers, and we go through what the rules and responsibilities are, that this particular person has no knowledge of anything that occurred because he was cleaning and watching TV while there were X amount of people in there, and food and drinks were being served. How was that paid for? I mean, how were those transactions recorded? Was it cash? Was it credit card? Was it cash under the table? So there's lots of other ramifications that come about as a result of the questioning that's been ongoing, coupled with what Officer Kelsey has given us as recorded investigatory reporting. So, you know, lots of concerns from members of the board. With that being said, Mr. Lawler, do you want to respond to anything that I've mentioned or to anything anyone else has said up here?
Can I take that 3-minute break, and then I'll be right back to you?
Are you willing to do that?
I would endorse that, Mr. Chairman, if I may, because I'm really interested in the questions regarding the video system. I'm interested in questions about people standing on tables.
Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion that we temporarily adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes, and we will, it is now, what time is it? It is now 10:52. We will resume at 10:57.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we are reconvening the Licensing Authority special meeting agenda at 10:59 on July 9th. And we will begin with,
Can I answer
Mr. Lawler, I was giving you the opportunity to respond.
Yeah, I'm going to respond to several things, but more for clarification than argument. Though, as you know, I can't help arguing a little bit. With respect to the video surveillance system, my understanding is that that has not functioned for almost 10 years. There was a water leak on the premises years and years ago, and that outside video system was put in place a long time ago and has not functioned. With respect to the side door and the ability to access the premises, my understanding is that if it's the door I'm thinking about and talking about, you can go into the side door, and it virtually leads into the dining room, though you do have to pass like a waiter's station behind that. So I don't know if that would constitute, it's certainly not a kitchen, but it's kind of in the dining room, but a waiting station, almost like a, I'm not going to call it a bar, but it's like where food would prep and then grab. So it would be quasi dining room, quasi, business space. So that, to answer that question. But I also want to address some of the issues with respect to my point of clarification on January. There was some, there's businesses, all through Hyannis, and there's always competition and whatnot of people going back and forth. And there was some anonymous call about Tiki Port operating in the evenings, and the police came by. And as we all know, all police officers are, duly licensed in Barnstable as the licensing officers of, they have as much power to enforce the license as, Officer Kelsey, though that's his specific role and responsibility. And what was noted was there was a couple of cars in the parking lot. Now, there could be a couple of cars in the parking lot for 1,000 different reasons, whether they're employees, whether people were, someone, used good judgment, maybe had a drink too many and, got an Uber home, maybe. And there was, a call into the police at these time periods to go and check out because there were these rumors, which may not lead to the, probable cause, but as a licensing authority, the police have the ability to go into an establishment and as part of a license, because it's more of a privilege than a right, and that they certainly could have gone in and inspected the premises, knocked on the door, whatnot. There's no indication that happened. So I'm just saying from a standpoint of the history here, I really do think that that the evidence, that's been provided, relates to the March date, and that these issues of, because there been, God knows I have the utmost and complete respect for the Barnstable Police Department, and I would suspect that had they thought that there was some ongoing party there or some late night activity in those January meetings, that they would have followed through, that they would have gone to the front door, that they would have asked to go in and check things out. And you can't deny the police access under the license. So I would suggest to you that those items should not really, or I guess as to weight, would carry very little weight with this board. That being said, we're here today understanding that this is a very, very, very serious matter. That we understand that, as I indicated previously, that the after-hours issue that, and speaking with Officer Kelsey, is something that, we can hopefully try to work with, so to prevent any type of last call situation where, with respect to other competitors in town, and then whatever, reasonable punishment this board that we can live with,
Thank you, Attorney Lawler.
Thank you.
And I respect and appreciate the fact that you realize how serious this issue is. I mean, obviously, we have the right to revoke the license completely and close the entire rest of town, which is not my intent. But it shows that, we're taking this very, very seriously.
As you should, Mr. Flores, as you should.
Major concerns for members of the board that still need to be discussed and questions that need to be answered. So we'll go through that. and then come up with findings, and then we'll make some recommendations as we get closer to
Thank you.
the end of this hearing. So with that being said, I'm going to revert back to members of the board. Mr. Murphy.
Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry?
Could I make one statement?
One more, okay. Before we do that, Officer Kelsey?
Okay. Just in response to Attorney Lawler's statements about the January issue, and please, I will go forward with, I mean, obviously, the lion's share of what we're talking about today is about March 23.
Correct.
So I will acknowledge that right up front. But what I do want to let you know is I do have the calls for service. So January 18th at 1:57 in the morning, Sergeant Jones reports that there are approximately 12 cars in the Tiki Port parking lot on the Old Navy side of the parking lot, with additional cars pulling into the lot and leaving upon seeing his presence. He did not see anyone coming in or coming out of the establishment, but believes patrons may be utilizing the back door after hours. I will forward this information to Officer Kelsey for further investigation. January 25th, Patrolman Fellows, vehicles attached arrived at the establishment approximately 1:15 in the morning with intentions of going into the restaurant. Both vehicles were moved along. Vehicles parked behind the restaurant in the back right corner. January 26th at 2:26 in the morning, at least 6 unoccupied vehicles parked at the rear of Tiki Port in the Tiki parking lot and the Old Navy parking lot. So this side door, back door, whichever we want to call it, it is the door facing the Old Navy and the smaller back parking lot of the Tiki Port. Let's see here, what date is this? Again, on January 26th at 1:04, several vehicles in the parking lot in Old Navy between 1:15 and 1:30. Person trying to access the front door, which was locked, then meeting up with another person before going to the rear door of the building in the 2-3 corner, which is police jargon, but it's that back corner again. Several other cars seen parking in the same area. And I can go on. I mean, what I'm getting at, and I understand what Attorney Lawler was saying, well, why didn't these officers, as agents of the licensing authority, go into the building or at least look in? We've had that discussion. One, in the bar area, restaurant area, where the lounges, and then in the small function area, which is where this door is, I believe, there are no windows at all to look into this building. As far as what the police department was discussing concerning this information, we did have discussions with the supervisors and detectives, and we were actually in the process of seeing if we can establish enough evidence to apply for permission to put up a poll camera to watch the property. So that investigation was actually in the infant stages. Then we get into February, and the activities seem to have slowed down, and that's why that didn't go forward. So I just say this so that you have a point of reference as to what we were observing in January, sure, and then why the investigation didn't continue to go forward into February when it looked like the behavior had curtailed.
Thank you, Officer Kelsey. I respect that and appreciate it. The comments I made that, it was beginning in January going through March, 80 days plus, whether it was ongoing in January, whether it was ongoing in February, I'm a common sense guy. It just tells me that something was ongoing during that period of time that led up to the debacle on the March date. But we're really here, yes, to talk about March, but there is contributing evidence that shows that something was ongoing for whatever given reason. So from a common sense perspective, I just wanted to put that out there.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, thank you. Attorney Lawler, Detective Loisel is here present. Apparently he has someplace to be at noontime. Do you have any questions you'd like him to answer regarding the resuscitation of facts, or can we get that through Officer Kelsey? Detective Kelsey.
I think indicated earlier, I'm not intending to cross-examine anyone.
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, I'd like to
Go ahead.
release the witness.
Detective, thank you. Appreciate you coming and spending the time.
Thank you, officer.
A follow-up on your, I appreciate your clarification on the video system. And this is not to sound smug or smart, but it's because I'm not that smart, I've been told by my wife many times.
As we all have.
I've gone down this route before with you, Mr. Murphy, and I will respectfully disagree.
It's unfortunate that the video system was not up to date and was not repaired and functioning, because we probably wouldn't be here right now under this circumstance if the video system was working. We wouldn't be dealing with hearsay, double hearsay, that we'd just be dealing with the facts. But that being said, I am dealing with inferences when it comes to the January date up until the March date, because every single witness that provided testimony about January, about March 23rd, every single witness referenced previous times or knowledge that this has been going on. And I'm concerned that the license holder may have lost control of that premises due to whatever was going on there after 11 o'clock at night. Do you have any follow-up on that, or any indication from your client how that business was run from 11 until 1?
All I can say is that the proposed solutions that we have here are to make sure that control is maintained, and that the hour, the closing, changing the hours of operation would significantly help in that regard. And I believe, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe that, and not specifying the time, but that a major concern of the Barnstable Police Department is at the moment, the 1 o'clock closure and the issue with last call compared to other bars. So I would suggest to you that going forward, that would be something that would not only be strictly enforced, but that any issues of these nature, and also that if there is a crowd that does come to the restaurant that is aggressive or whatever, that phone calls immediately be made to Barnstable PD to assist in that regard. And I think that is something where we're looking to try to come to a resolution. I think it's quite obvious from my tone and from the procedures that I'm taking that we're looking here. We understand that there is, substantial problem here, and we're trying to address it, and with the board, and come up with a solution that this business that's been around since 1977 continue to operate and be provided an opportunity, with the understanding that there's going to be some tight reins by the Barnstable Police Department and this board in particular. That's the hope.
There is no doubt that the Tiki Port has been a cornerstone in the town of Barnstable since you've indicated 1977. I don't think anyone that's lived in this town for more than 20 or 30 years can say they've never been to the Tiki Port. But it's been there. It's been a tried and true business. My question and my problem is, how did something like this get to this point? And it's the board's, I'm sorry to interrupt you, it's the board's responsibility to make sure that the proper people are managing it, that the business is run safely. The Supreme Court has dictated that there's 4 businesses: liquor, mining, auto salvage, and I can't even read my own handwriting. Firearms. That public safety is paramount, and boards in towns can be very restrictive and very punitive for violations that impact public safety. And this, if we take it at face value, has impacted public safety, whether these people got run over by Tiki Port's fault or not. 2 people were injured in that parking lot. We're not here to discuss that today. We're not ruling on that. We're ruling on the violations in front of us. But you can't get away from the fact that Tiki Port wasn't driving those cars, but they were part of the problem.
I understand that the seriousness of the accusations. We understand that the power of the board. We understand the power of what the Commonwealth has provided this board can and cannot do. And that's why we're here with an effort to come to some type of hopefully consensus on how to move forward. And I can guarantee you this, that I can only guarantee my own actions, that my clients have been and will continue to be advised by me as with respect to how to operate appropriately. Been representing establishments for liquor in this town for probably over 30 years. And I had not represented them up until this point for this issue, just a couple of weeks ago. We've had numerous conversations, sit-downs of how to operate, what the ramifications might be, and, you know, in steps forward and all those other matters. And again, we're here to try to come to some type of reasonable consensus, hopefully. I understand that that's up to you. It's not, and that's why, you know, immediately receiving a phone call from Officer Kelsey, I took it with the utmost seriousness. Once he found out I was involved, he called me. He has my cell phone, I have his. And we've been trying to work with this and try to come up with a solution where this business continue to operate with the understanding that the reins are going to be very short, if we're lucky enough to do that.
Anyone else have any questions from the board? Okay, not hearing any. I'll open this up to the public. Anyone from the public, any comment? Any questions, any concerns? Anyone wants to raise, please come up and identify yourself. You'll have 3 minutes. Not seeing or hearing anyone, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second, please. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, that is a vote. We will move on now to a motion to determine the findings of fact. If after everything that's been discussed, violations have been found, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Nancy Carlson-Lidman to begin that process.
Chair, if I may.
I'm sorry,
Can we-
yes.
I apologize. Can we just, for the record, just appoint the 3 voting members, please? before
Yes,
we
the 3 voting members are myself, John Flores as chairperson of the authority, vice chair, Larry Decker, and Nancy Carlson-Lidman, who is the senior associate member. We will be the 3 voting, although Commissioner Silva and Commissioner Murphy will also have the opportunity to vote, and I would welcome that, their input also. But the 3 votes of myself, Larry Decker, and Nancy Carlson-Lidman will be the recorded votes that officially need to be recorded, with also the associate member votes also being noted. Okay, so with that being said, as I mentioned, we've closed the hearing portion. We're going to have a motion to determine findings and then discuss verdicts and actions as we move forward. So from a findings perspective, would you please begin?
501-5H, responsibilities of the license holder. The license holder is responsible for the proper management of the premises according to the provisions of relevant general laws of the Commonwealth or relevant ordinances or codes of the town of Barnstable. Any rule or regulation of any town of Barnstable agency or the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, any business plan or management policy of said license holder, or of any other means as determined by the licensing authority, so that unlawful acts or unlicensed activity does not occur on the licensed premises. 501-8A, hours of operation. The hours of operation shall not exceed the hours approved by the licensing authority. 501-8C, hours of operation. Licensees are not permitted to allow any patron or any guest or any employee who was not working that shift to enter the premises after the closing hour posted on the license or prior to the opening hour posted on the license. 501-8 D.1, hours of operation. Licensees are not permitted to have persons, including employees, on the premises except during the following hours. 1, The hours on the license, except that patrons who are already on the premises at closing may remain on the premises for up to 1/2 hour after closing time, provided, however, that no new patrons are admitted after closing time, and that no drinks are served after closing time, and that no food is served after closing time. 502-5B, additional provisions on premises license. No alcoholic beverages shall be served to a patron, licensee, or employee after the closing hours indicated on the license, and all glasses, bottles, or other containers used for or containing alcoholic beverages shall be removed from all tables, bars, counters, patrons, and public areas, no later than 15 minutes after the approved closing time on the license for the sale of alcoholic beverages. No alcoholic beverages shall be consumed thereafter. 502-5C, additional provisions for on-premises license. All patrons must be off the licensed premise within 30 minutes after closing. Employees must be off the premises within 60 minutes after the closing, except as allowed by law.
Okay, so after reviewing the record and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay Inc. remain open past their approved licensing hours of operation. And before we move on to the other items that need to be dealt with, I'm going to move that Pacific Bay Inc. Be found guilty of the items 5015, 5018, 5018C, 5018D, D.1, hours of operation, 502-5B, 502-5C, and I would ask as a motion that I move that Pacific Bay Inc. be found guilty on all of these items as related to the specific requirements of licensing by the town of Barnstable. Do I have a second for that, please?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that is a vote. Okay, moving on to 501-7E.
501-7D, admissions to the premises. Licensees may refuse entrance to the premise to a person who appears to be intoxicated or unruly, and may evict such a patron, except that in the case as such, licensee will call the police and will offer assistance to an intoxicated or disruptive patron or person trying to gain entry when possible. If the employee finds, with reasonable discretion or opinion, such a person poses a risk to the public or to him or herself.
Okay, I'm looking at, which one, what number is that, please?
501-D, 501-7D.
7D?
Yeah.
Okay. After reviewing the record, we find that Pacific Bay has violated this item, and I move that Pacific Bay be found guilty. Is there a second to that, please?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is a vote. Would you continue?
501-7E, admissions to the premises. Licensees are not permitted to lock the front door of the premises until the last patron has exited from the premises.
Okay, the findings are, after reviewing the recorded file and the hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay Inc. locked the front entry door while patrons entered by means of a rear entrance. The verdict is that I'm going to move that Pacific Bay be found guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations, Section 501-7, Section E. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is a vote. 501-8B.
501-8B, hours of operation. Licensees shall ensure that their patrons leave the premises in an orderly manner.
The findings are that after reviewing the recorded file and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay, Inc. failed to control their patrons as an argument moved from inside the establishment to the parking lot. I move that Pacific Bay is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations, 501-8, Section B. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next.
501-10B, standards of conduct and activity occurring at the licensed premises. Licensees are not permitted to invite the members of the general public to private areas of the premises which are approved by the licensing authority for storage or for an office or for a kitchen or for music or video projection room or for any similar non-public use. Only owners and employees of the licensed premises may be in this area.
Okay, the findings, after reviewing the record file and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay, Inc. permitted a patron behind the bar in an employee-designated area. I move that Pacific Bay is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations, Section 501-10, Section B. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is a vote. Next.
501-10J.5, standards of conduct and activity occurring at the licensed premises. Calling for the police assistance to protect patrons against injury or to evict unruly patrons or to uncover unlawful conduct or to give medical assistance and providing police with requested information.
Okay, unfortunately, I don't have page 4 in my document for some whatever given reason. I only have the odd pages.
I don't
So
have it either.
I think, Larry, you have the
Down
same
here.
problem.
Yeah,
Same down here.
So I just want to read this, this was 501-10J, is that the one you just read?
The top.
After reviewing the record file and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay, Inc. failed to protect their patrons by not calling the police for assistance when the argument escalated. I move that Pacific Bay is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations, Section 501-10J.5. Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is a vote. The next item is 501.
501-10K, standards of conduct and activity occurring at the licensed premises. K, there shall be no disorder, indecency, prostitution, illegal activity on the licensed premises, or any premise connected therewith by an interior communication. 5021H, alcohol beverages, general provisions. Licensees may refuse entrance to the premises to a person who appears to be intoxicated or unruly/belligerent.
Okay, regarding 501-10 and 502, did you read 502-12, alcohol? Findings, after reviewing the record file and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay, Inc. allowed disorder by permitting intoxicated patrons to enter the premises and not refusing entrance. I move that Pacific Bay, Inc. is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations, Section 501-10, Section K. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is a vote.
(501-10L), standards of conduct and activity occurring at the licensed premises. Licensees shall instruct their employees and security personnel that they are not to make bodily contact with a patron unless to protect other patrons or themselves from being subjected to body blows from an unruly patron. In all other circumstances, employees and security personnel will call the police to have a patrons removed from the premises when such patrons are being disruptive, and they are unable to convince the patron to leave the premises voluntarily. 501-10M, standards of conduct and activity occurring at the licensed premises. M, licensees and employees will call the police and an ambulance and take all other reasonable steps to assist patrons and persons who are injured in or on the licensed premise or whose injuries have occurred outside the premises but have been brought to the attention of the licensee.
I apologize for having to pass the page, but
That's-
my packet does not have the even-numbered pages, only the odd numbers. Okay, so we have taken a look at 501-10I, 501-10M. After reviewing the record file and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay Inc. employees failed to call the police when the argument escalated. I move that Pacific Bay, after reviewing the record file and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay is guilty on this, and I move that Pacific Bay be found guilty as it relates to those particular sections. All those in favor, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is a vote.
501-11A, environs of the licensed premises. It shall be the obligations of the licensees to ensure that supervision is exercised over the conduct of the licensed establishment at all times. Each licensee will be held accountable for all violations that are related to the licensed premises, whether or not the licensee acted properly in the given circumstance.
Okay, that I do have. That's on page 5. I have the odd-numbered pages. Findings, after reviewing the record file and hearing testimony, we find that the licensed manager, on the evening that the alleged violations occurred, permitted patrons into the establishment after the closing hours, served alcoholic beverages to new patrons after closing time, and permitted customers behind the bar and provided entertainment without a license. Hence, I move that Pacific Bay, Inc. is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations, Section 501-11A. I have a second, please.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that is a vote. Next.
501-14E, other causes for revocation, suspension, and modification. A license may be suspended or modified or revoked for the refusal by any licensee and, if a corporation, by a manager, officer, or director thereof, to appear and to testify under oath at an inquiry or hearing held by the licensing authority with respect to any application or matter bearing upon the conduct of the licensed business or bearing upon the character and fitness of such person to continue to hold a license.
Okay, findings after reviewing the record file and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay, Inc. Is in violation of 501-14E. I move that Pacific Bay is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations, Section 501-14E. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is a vote.
502-1I, alcoholic beverages. General provisions, alcoholic beverage licensees are forbidden to make a sale or delivery of alcoholic beverages or alcohol to a person who is intoxicated or who appears to be intoxicated.
Yeah, I don't have page 6. Okay. The findings that after reviewing the record file and hearing testimony on 501-14E, we find that Pacific Bay, Inc. Is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations of Section 501-14-E. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Not hearing any, we'll take a vote on this particular item. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is a vote.
501-14E. Oh, 502-1. Oh, sorry. 503-2A, entertainment general provisions. No entertainment shall be permitted without a valid entertainment license on the premises.
Okay. After reviewing the record file and hearing testimony, we find that Pacific Bay provided entertainment recorded music without a proper license, which violates 503-2 in the verdict. I move that Pacific Bay Inc. is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations, Section 503-2A. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please.
Yes, sir.
I don't recall any testimony or anything in the record regarding entertainment that went on there. Serving after hours and disorderly conduct and failure to supervise and all those things. I didn't hear any testimony about
Okay, so
entertainment.
If I may speak
If
to
you may.
that, Chair. Am I allowed to speak to that with the record, with the public hearing closed? It's in the record data. So the manager stated that he was watching TV and had music loud. He does not have any entertainment license, which includes non-live and live entertainment. So
Okay.
music was playing and the TVs are not licensed.
got it.
All right, I stand corrected. I
I
took
apologize
that
for that.
testimony as the TV was on loud. I didn't hear the fact that music was playing. I withdraw that objection if that was entered in the record.
Okay, with that being on record, I move that Pacific Bay, I make a motion, I move that Pacific Bay Inc. is guilty as it relates to the licensing rules and regulations of Section 503-2A. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
And Chair,
Aye, that is a vote.
I just need to make a correction for the record, please. Violation 50114, other causes for revocation, suspension, and modification, that was input by me in case the applicant, or I'm sorry, the representation didn't show up. So it does not apply in this situation. He is here, and so is his representation. So if we can just read a motion to revoke the findings and verdict on 50114.
50114,
Correct.
okay, I'll make a motion to revoke the findings of the commission regarding item 501-14 to be omitted in any further debate or discussion. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is a vote, and we will now move into a motion to determine action, and action basically meaning what sentence will be placed on the business if found guilty, and all items that have been moved forward have been found in the guilty mode. So I'm just going to put this out there as a beginning discussion. It's up to the three voting members, of course, with input from the two non-voting members, which will be included in any debate or discussion. But I'm going to suggest a starting point is that we would impose a 1-month license suspension with 2 weeks held in abeyance, and that closing hours be moved back from 1 a.m. to 11 p.m. for 6 months, effective either August 1st or September 1st. And that any violations of the above two recommendations, the 1-month license suspension with the 2 weeks held in abeyance with the 6 months changing of hours from 1 a.m. to 11 p.m., that would result in further action by the licensing board at a later point in time. So I'm putting that out there in the form of discussion. If someone would like to turn that into the form of a motion, we could vote on it and move forward, unless someone either wants to increase that or decrease it. I'm open for debate.
I'd like some discussion on the closing hours, please, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
As far as the 6 months go, I would respectfully suggest that the license be rolled back to 11 p.m. until the next renewal date of their license, and then the board can revisit that issue when their license is up for renewal, if they do, in fact, have a license at that point.
What is their renewal date?
December 31st.
December.
The applications renewal begins in November, so we would need by the last meeting of December, approval of that.
So it would be effective until 12/31/25. Subject.
Correct.
The feeling on that, Mr. Chairman, is that we may want to stay at 11 p.m. Why box ourselves into a 6 month when it's basically 6 months till we get to the end of the year when they renew? If we have any problems during the time, or they're not conducting their ways in a way that we think they should be extended, then we can deal with that at their license renewal.
We're on the same page. My idea was that we would do it for 6 months, and then if there were, after 6 months, we could determine whether we wanted to continue it or change it, whatever the case. But if it makes more sense from a licensing authority perspective and a timing perspective to coincide it with the license renewal, I have no problem with that.
May I comment? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, you know this much better than I do. But generally, licenses get renewed and you put the application in and so that would require a whole new hearing. I wouldn't have a problem with actually scheduling a hearing 6 months out in January and rather than, renew the license and go through the, normal administrative process. And then I would have no problem putting something on the calendar right now that, this is subject to review, say, it's August 1st, so August, September, October, November, January, sometime in February, which would be 6 months, then.
Well, my intent was,
And I know that puts my client actually in a.
you run a business, so whether we were to impose all of this beginning
Well, I mean,
August 1, the beginning of the month, or September 1, I was open to discussion on that, and then it was 6 months. But Commissioner Murphy has raised an issue, and it's up for debate, discussion.
No, and
As we are saying, so. Does anyone
Mr.
else on the
Chairman.
board have a feeling on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to steal everyone's time, feel free. My feeling on that is, I don't think, in my opinion, Tiki Port would be eligible or should have a consent agenda license renewal. I think, given the totality of these circumstances and the seriousness of them, that they should have to come back before the board and reapply at 11 o'clock and let them dictate to the board that they have created a new environment there, that it is safe for the public. I don't think they're eligible or should be eligible. I don't know the exact how that fits into the equation, that they shouldn't be eligible for a consent agenda, just mail in an application, they automatically get it. I think they should have to come before the board and represent themselves.
And if I may, I believe you can make that condition, and that is certainly a condition you can impose upon the license. It's not, we have not done it, but it's not, it's certainly something that's within our ability.
So we could include that either to coincide with the actual renewal of the license, which is as of December 31st, or 6 months down the road, whatever we determine. We could do it either way, and the question is whether we would initiate this on August 1st or September 1st.
Correct.
Mr. Lawler, representing the restaurant, is there an issue with August 1st or September 1st, and no issue whatsoever?
obviously would prefer into September and avoid the summertime for any type of closure.
Mr. Chairman.
Is there comments from the board?
Yes, is it my understanding that when you presented your thought, that it was 1 month with 2 weeks held in abeyance?
Correct.
Which means that they would be closed for 2 weeks?
Correct. And if there were any violations found during that 6 months period or to the date of the license renewal, then the other 2 weeks would go into effect. And that was just a starting point.
Yeah, well, I know that the town of Barnstable is really encouraged about being in favor of businesses. This has been an involved and a serious action that they've done. My suggestion is that they be closed for 30 days. And then it's subject to the 6 months, as Mr. Murphy said, with the closing at 11 o'clock. I just think this is extremely beyond thought. This has been going on for some time, and I don't think by having him shut down for 2 weeks is my opinion that they're getting their hands slapped. That's just my opinion.
If I may, a month would, I think, may put my client out of business and the employees and everything else. And we were hoping, and again, I had conversations with Officer Kelsey, and that if, and I knew you're looking at 11 o'clock, we were really, I understand we asked for midnight. I don't know if the board would compromise and do 11:30 in that regard. From a standpoint of being able to stay open. I'm trying to keep my client in business. It's very difficult out there, and obviously not to mention, my expense, this, that, and the other things, part of the price of doing business, but to close this business down for a month would probably result in my client having to shut the doors. And
Mr. Lawler, he was doing a lot of business after hours, so somewhere along the way, he was making up for whatever. So,
respectfully, it's hard out there on these businesses, and this summer's not been great. There's been other issues with tourism. There's this, that, and the. I'm not making any excuses for the allegations here. I'm just
I
saying
hear you
about
loud and
from-
clear.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, the only point I want to make is that we're here to enforce the rules and regulations of the licensing authority for the public safety, for the community safety, and obviously there's been lots of violations, so we're trying to be reasonable, but the fact of the matter is Tiki Port is here because of what they created. They made their own problem, so they have to suffer the consequences. So with that being said, are there other comments that anyone else would like to make on the commission?
I have a
Yes,
comment.
Jess.
I know it's an opinion only, but I do not agree with the 30-day closure. I think that is excessive.
Okay. Anybody else?
There was some earlier, Mr. Chairman, please. There was some earlier discussion with Aaron Logan, Director Logan, about the problem of having a common vicular license at the same time as you have an alcohol license. I too agree that 30 days would be a punitive measure that may force them out of business. However, if it is legal and proper to have them only have a common vicular license for those 30 days and lose their liquor license for those 30 days, then that would be something that I would change my mind on.
I think we might be complicating the issue a little bit in terms of what they can serve and what they can't serve, food versus liquor. I would go back to and there seems to be a difference of opinion, I would go back to the original comment of a 1-month license suspension with 2 weeks being held in abeyance and an 11 p.m. closing time for the next 6 months. And as we get to 30 days before that 6 months, that they would have to reapply for any extension of hours accordingly. We could put that on our agenda. So I'd like to offer that in the form of a motion so that we can somehow bring this meeting to closure.
Mr. Chairman, before we move forward, may I make a comment?
But I have a second first, then we can have a discussion on this.
Second.
Okay? Now we can discuss.
Mr. Lawler brought up having 1 week and then a week in November, and I would like to see those 2 weeks concurrent.
No objection.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion, any other debate? So the motion on the table is to have a 1-month license suspension with 2 weeks held in abeyance for the next...
Mr. Chairman? I think Director Logan wanted to make a comment.
Sorry, thank you. I just want to clarify for the record, in consulting with our counsel, I do believe there could be, it's not very clear whether the closure, we do believe it's just specific to the alcohol license, so they could remain open and serve food only. I want that to be part of the discussion and the debate. Also, for just a point of reference, the consent agenda is entirely up to the licensing authority. You have the right to pull anybody off of a consent agenda at renewal. This can certainly be imposed on the license indefinitely and be reviewed every year at renewal. I just want to give you your options.
Right.
But I would say, if you're agreeing to February and that's what you're comfortable with.
I'm not.
We would
Oh,
support.
yes, in terms of the 6 months, yes.
Right.
What my motion basically is saying is that there's going to be a 1-month license suspension of everything, that for a period of 2 weeks, Tiki Port would be closed.
Understood.
The other 2 weeks, as part of that 1-month recommendation, would be held in abeyance.
Understood.
And during that 6-month period, if there were violations, any violations that would be found, those other 2 weeks would kick in.
Understood.
Also, during that 6-month time frame, we would be requiring Tiki Inn to close at 11 p.m. versus 1 a.m. Those are the conditions of my motion. And there's a second to that, which we are discussing now. So are there any other points of order or discussion? If not, I will call a vote. And this would be effective,
September 1, I believe you said?
we can do September 1, effective September 1. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is a vote. We have ruled that we will impose a closing of hours to be at 11 p.m. instead of 1 a.m. for the next 6 months, effective September 1. And effective September 1, there will be a 1-month license suspension with 2 weeks held in abeyance. So Tiki Port, would be closed the first 2 weeks of September, I guess, September 1 through September 14, September 15.
And the hours of operation likewise?
Yeah, well, it's closed, and then subsequent to reopening, it would be closing at 11 p.m., 6 months. And you can have that specific date as of September 1. So that would bring us through February.
So just for clarification purposes, the hours rollback does not start until September 1?
That's what we just voted, yes.
Thank you.
To
Thank you.
run concurrently.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the board. I know
This entire issue goes into effect September 1, 6-month closure, and then 6 months at 11 p.m.
Yeah, and I'm going to go and meet with my client. at the-
Excuse me, 1 month suspension, 2 weeks held in abeyance,
Yep.
6-month closing at 11 p.m.
And on behalf of myself, I hope you folks are all volunteers. I know you took a special day out of your lives for this. I thank you. I know it's a serious matter, but it's a big deal, and I thank you, and I
Yeah.
thank Aaron and Officer Kelsey. I know you're busy as well. Thank you.
So again, for clarification purposes,
Yes.
the 11 o'clock rollback starts September 1, so for the whole summer, they're still operating with a 1 o'clock license, and we are going to be potentially dealing with the issues that we've already been dealing with.
But I think, if I may, to that point, though, we are going to give them 2 weeks served, 2 weeks held in abeyance. So if there are any violations, they have to serve that full month.
Because I
But
can
what-
guarantee you. I'm
hold
gonna
hold
go-
on.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing, though, is none of this takes place until September 1st.
That's what was just
That
voted.
6 months does not start until September 1st. So any violations now are not rolled into the finding that you just found. So if they were in violation tomorrow, that 2 weeks that's being held in abeyance doesn't kick in because none of that starts until September 1st.
That is correct. That's the vote that was taken.
Just want to make sure that my bosses know.
Sure.
That's not a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, point of order question. I'm not that familiar with the rules and regulations of show cause hearings, and I apologize to you for that. Is it proper or procedurally correct that I could make a motion right now to, based on, not punitive, but just based on the facts that I've heard today about how that business was run on March of this year, that we roll back their hours till 11 o'clock starting today until the commission, until that start of that.
You want to put that into the form of a motion, we'll entertain it.
I'd like to hear some comment from the licensing folks on the legality of that.
I'm just being told that you've already voted, so it's going to be September
Can we
1st.
rescind that vote?
I would have to look into it procedurally. I'm not comfortable with letting you guys.
Can we have a second motion?
Very comfortable. I mean, I think that and I will have to have a conversation with my client that the hours of, and we understand that if something happens over in August or July and August, that we'll be right here within days before this board.
I'm going to look to our attorney, Alyssa Mastretta.
I'm not comfortable allowing you to revoke the vote that you just took
Okay.
at this time. If you want to take a break, I can look into it.
I-
I understand Officer Kelsey's concern. I do know that.
No, I respect that. Wish it had been brought up when we were debating.
Yeah, I mean, this is a disciplinary action.
Right.
Whether it starts today or September 1, it's still 6 months. I understand Officer Kelsey's concern that that allows them to operate as they have been between now and September 1. I think, and you all can.
She's going to tell you to go to the microphone.
So, like I said, I understand, Allison Cogliano, Assistant Town Attorney. I understand Officer Kelsey's concern that between now and September 1, given the vote you just took, they can go back and operate as they have been for the next month and a half or so.
Well, technically closing at 1 with no after hours.
Correct. And so I think you all could potentially vote on conditions between now and September 1. Those 2 weeks are held in abeyance after that period starts. However, I think, and Attorney Lawler can speak for his client, but I think that they would be, it would not be the greatest of decisions to violate the conditions of their discipline, but also just our regulations after having this hearing. I know that's putting a lot of trust in the business. But again, unless you want to take a break and I can look into whether or not what we can do with that vote,
take a break?
I'm not confident that we can revoke a vote that we just took.
Thank you, Attorney. As just a point of clarification and to be a little bit more articulate than I was, my motion was not tied to the disciplinary action vote here. My motion of rolling back their hours to 11 o'clock was part of the authority of the licensing board when there is a violation or when there is concern to modify someone's hours. I thought we had that ability to modify a licensee holder's hours when facts are presented that they're not running their business in a consistent manner. Between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m., we can't touch between those hours, we cannot affect their license. But anything before 11 a.m. or anything after 11 p.m., that we could modify their hours. And that's the basis of my motion.
If I may?
Sure.
My client just indicated that he's going to voluntarily close at midnight between now and the time that the suspension
September
happens.
1st?
Yep.
Feeling of the board, the feeling of the Officer Kelsey?
I have a question, and maybe this might take research as well. If you're not comfortable with Mr. Murphy's motion or potential motion now, could that motion be put on the July 23rd agenda as a modification of license?
My inclination would be to say yes. Because that was where what I was going to say is that I don't know that we could address the license as a whole at this time because this is a show cause hearing. And again, it wasn't put on the agenda that we would also be permanently modifying their license.
If I may interrupt just a quick second, Mr. Chairman, I'll withdraw my motion for 11 p.m. closing, but I will inform the board that I intend to probably make that motion, request to go on the agenda for the next meeting, and I'll be making the same motion then.
For purposes of this meeting, we will not object. We will close forthwith at 11 p.m., starting now, assuming that the 6 months would also begin to run now with respect to the 11 o'clock closure. So my clients will close. I'm not gonna, the board's been very reasonable. I'm not gonna fight you on this issue. There seems to have been a procedural misunderstanding, and I'm not gonna take advantage. My client doesn't want to take advantage of that. He wants to work with the town. He's gonna close at 11
There's no
o'clock.
procedural misunderstanding. I mean, it's something that was brought up after a vote was taken.
Okay, no, and I'm not criticizing anything. These very confusing circumstances with these show cause hearings, I please don't, that was not intended as a, as saying that my clients would be willing to not object if you modified your vote to include that the 11 p.m. closure starts forthwith, assuming the 6 months would also start forthwith.
Mr. Chairman, can I just request 2 minutes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a show cause hearing between the Barnstable Licensing Authority and Pacific Bay, Inc., doing business as Tiki Port. And based on conversations that we've been having relative to verdicts and penalties that we have implied and imposed, there has been some discussion about reconsideration to change some of the components of that. So I'm going to ask our attorney, Alyssa Mastrata, to basically share with us
Yep.
her concerns.
Allison Cogliano, Assistant Town Attorney. So procedurally, you would need to do a vote to reconsider that last vote. You'd have to vote in favor of reconsideration, and then you would take that vote again, same vote, September 1 start. If you all are in agreement that you no longer want to vote in favor of that, that won't pass, the reconsideration. And then you'll take a new vote, which you can discuss what your new discipline now wants to be, or you want the new discipline to be. Does that make sense? So vote for reconsideration. If you all vote for the reconsideration, then you take the first vote again. If you all vote against that, then you get to make a new motion for a new discipline. And it seems to me that that's going to be something that starts immediately as opposed to September 1.
I will entertain a vote to reconsider the previous vote of the board.
I make a motion to reconsider the previous vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that is a vote. Second vote then is to, what's the appropriate term, revoke, change?
So you would you're reconsidering that first vote, so you want to vote, you want to make a motion
To,
no, you're going to make
We're not
the actual
reconsidering.
motion
right?
to have a 6-month, 11 PM rollback and a 1-month suspension with 2 weeks held in abeyance. And then you all will vote on that again.
Okay, so we have to vote to revoke the motion? We don't have to do
Nope,
that?
you're reconsidering that
Okay.
motion, and so
So
it
it's just
will
new
be
language.
revoked
Okay,
if it's voted against.
well, we just voted against it.
No, you voted to reconsider it, and now you have to reconsider it by actually making the motion again.
Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we reconsider the vote that we just took regarding the penalty to Tiki Port for reconsideration.
So you just took that vote to reconsider?
No, not that, no, we vote on that, we reconsidered it. I make a motion that we've reconsidered it. Now we're voting again on that exact punitive penalty that we just imposed,
Correct.
September
to
1st.
to reject it.
We're voting on it.
You'll vote,
Yeah,
you'll
that's what
vote
I'm saying,
on
but
it.
to re-vote on it. So is that in the form of a motion? All those in favor signify by, is there a second?
Second?
All those, any discussion? So everybody knows what we're doing. We're basically removing the motion that we just did, which
Yep.
was a 6-month rollback, 2 weeks held in abeyance, the changing of the time, and we're going to start fresh.
Right.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is a vote. Okay, now,
Well, you have to vote on who's opposed by it, who's opposing the motion. Because remember,
we're all opposed to it.
I think you all have to vote no.
you have to
I'm
vote
voting,
no.
I'm opposing what the penalty that we just,
Right.
I'm voting in opposition to the penalty that we just,
All those in favor of voting no signify by saying aye.
No, you would just oppose it. So let's try it again. We voted the reconsideration. I'm going to ask Aaron to read in that previous motion you took, and then you will all either vote for issuing that
Okay,
discipline,
would you read the
or
motion?
you will vote against issuing that discipline.
Okay, I move that the disciplinary action will be an 11 PM license for 6 months, starting September 1st, and a 1-month suspension with 2 weeks served and 2 weeks held in abeyance, beginning September 1st of 2025. All those in favor?
Signify by saying aye. Well, actually,
And-
do we
all-
need-
No.
do we
All
need to
those in
say no?
favor, aye, no, and any nays?
Nay.
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 Okay.
Okay. So for the record, you would just say that that vote
Great. So
has been turned down.
Great. So for the record, the initial,
Good vote, okay. So now we're back to square one.
Correct.
Okay, so I will entertain a new motion relative to penalties that will be imposed on Pacific Bay doing business as Tiki Port. Is there a new motion that someone would like to make? Mr. Murphy?
I make a motion that the Tiki Port hours shall be rolled back to 11 p.m. effective today, and that there will be a 1-month suspension of their license, 2 weeks held in abeyance, and that suspension will commence on September 1st.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, so 11
I
p.m.
would just say you should clarify how long that
6 months.
11 PM, okay. You did say that, I'm sorry.
No, I did not say that. I'm clarifying it now that the motion will be a rollback of their hours till 11 p.m. commencing today, a suspension of their license for a period of 1 month with 2 weeks held in abeyance. The suspension shall take place September 1st, and the 2 weeks held in abeyance will be continued for 6 months.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is a vote. So we've agreed that as of today, you close at 11 o'clock, beginning on September 1. You're closed for 2 weeks, 2 held in abeyance. If there's any violation of anything ongoing relative to that, it'll be taken into consideration at our immediate meeting or a special meeting, and we will be quite more stringent if there are any problems. And obviously, that 11 o'clock, 11 p.m. closing time continues for the 6 months subsequent to from September 1 through 6 months later. So basically, what we have done is add additional closing time of 11 p.m. subject today through September 1, then it continues from September 1 for the 6 months. Okay. All
Mr.
right.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just so that the establishment understands, with this 11 o'clock closing, it's similar to a 1 o'clock closing in the after hours, I will say. So just so that you know, you're closed at 11 o'clock. By 11:15, all drinks have to be out of people's hands, off the bars, off tables. By 11:30, everyone has to be off the premise. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that, because we are obviously going to be checking.
Yep, we understand that.
And I would also say, just, as a closing comment, is that, having been in Barnstable my life, Tiki Port's always been an active part of the community in many, many ways. It's always really been a good business, well operated. It's unfortunate that it fell into this set of circumstances. It's an opportunity for your company to basically take a hard look at how you run operations and make the appropriate changes. And I think we're being fair and being equitable. Any other comments? Okay. All right, a motion to adjourn, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn to July 23rd, regular meeting.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this show cause hearing is not something that we do very often, so if there were a few glitches and a few bumps, I
2 weeks that they're not going to
say thank you for
the 2 weeks that they're not
all
getting
of us getting
suspended
through
for,
with it together.
like probation for 6 months.